I think she's going to return by the end of the season. The question is, when? Are we really bringing her back against the Minnesota Lynx? Would that be the smartest idea? No, not really. Not really. Let's take a look. The Indiana Fever have been playing through the 2025 season under head coach Stephanie White. Indiana is led by Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and several other stars. While they have one of the best rosters in the league, they've been missing Clark. Clark has missed a majority of the season, currently working through a groin injury. The last time Clark was on the floor was a matchup against the Connecticut Sun on July 16th, while the Fever were on a 3-game win streak. It's been over a month at this point.
Now, let's not sugarcoat it. Caitlin Clark hasn't been on the court lately, and every single game she's missed has left Fever fans restless and on edge. She didn't even travel with the team this past week, and that absence only made the speculation grow louder. So, what's really going on here? Is Indiana simply being cautious with their star? Or is this all part of a larger plan to bring Clark back into the spotlight at just the right moment? With Kyra Lambert now released, a roster spot has officially opened up. And unless the Fever are hiding a last-minute overseas signing that nobody's heard about, all signs point to one name, and that name is Caitlin Clark.
Referring to. I know Rudy from Come On Now the podcast. Shout out to Rudy. Rudy did a whole entire video breaking down what Holly Rose said. Is Caitlin Clark coming back within the next week or so? I personally wouldn't bring her back against the Minnesota Lynx, but also, depending on the severity of Sophie Cunningham's injury, I might not bring her back, period, for the rest of the season. I might play if Sophie can't come back, if it's not serious, then maybe we are talking about Caitlin Clark coming back. I did say when she went down and this period of time started to get longer and longer and longer and longer, by the time she's cleared, if we're in a playoff spot.
Of course, WNBA fans aren't just taking this at face value. The moment the news dropped, people jumped online and started throwing out wild theories. Some are claiming this means the Fever could go after Kennedy Carter, which makes absolutely no sense, considering she literally just signed elsewhere. Others believe this is Indiana scrambling to cover themselves after failing to get Sophie Cunningham fully healthy. But when you strip away the noise and look at the facts, all arrows point back to one conclusion. Caitlin Clark's return is closer than anyone expected. Let's be honest here. Kyra Lambert logged just 1 minute across 2 games. That's it. 1 minute. She wasn't part of the rotation. She wasn't a bench spark. She was simply a practice body and a name at the bottom of the roster. The Fever gave her a chance. It didn't pan out, and now they've moved on. That part isn't shocking. The timing, however, is what makes this move so fascinating. If Indiana wanted to waive Lambert, they could have done it weeks ago. Instead, they waited until now, right before 2 of the biggest games of their season against the Minnesota Lynx. That's not a coincidence. That's a signal.
That I wanted to bring up is a comment that Scott Agnes made on his YouTube channel. Scott Agnes was replying to someone else's comment who said, "Just can't wait until Cece is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi." And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, "Have patience, at least several more weeks." Now, Scott Agnes is a beat reporter for the Indiana Fever. He has been covering them relentlessly all season, and we have gotten a lot of great information from Scott over the season. And I actually went to his YouTube channel and just kind of skimmed through the comments to see if there was anything else. There was one other reply where he was replying to someone and basically said, like, "You have to trust me or just trust me." It's up to viewers' discretion. It's up to the fans if they want to believe what he's saying. But several more weeks pretty much puts Caitlin Clark to coming back at the very end of the regular season.
Here's the part that almost makes it hilarious. The Fever finally start shuffling their roster, finally make a decisive move, and the player they release is Kyra Lambert. No disrespect to her, but let's be honest, this was never really about Lambert. She was simply keeping a seat warm until Caitlin Clark was ready to reclaim it. That's the cold reality of the WNBA. Half these roster moves aren't about strategy at all, they're about who needs to go so the star can come back. And in Indiana, the star has always been Caitlin Clark. So now, Fever fans are buzzing. WNBA Twitter is on fire. Sports blogs that haven't watched an Indiana game in years are suddenly acting like they've been tracking the team since 1997. And every headline points to the same conclusion: Caitlin Clark's return is coming sooner than expected. And honestly, if you've been paying attention, it makes perfect sense. Why else would Indiana make this move right now? You don't cut a player in the middle of a random week unless you're clearing space for something big. And let's be real, the league can't afford to keep its biggest draw on the sidelines any longer. Ticket sales need Caitlin. TV ratings need Caitlin. The hype machine needs Caitlin. Without her, the Fever are just another mid-tier WNBA team fighting for sixth place. With her, suddenly ESPN is sending camera crews. Every sports show has a Caitlin Clark segment, and merch sales are through the roof. Timing is everything, and the Fever's schedule says it all. Minnesota twice, then Seattle, then the Sparks, then the Valkyries, Phoenix, and Chicago. It's a brutal stretch that could sink their playoff hopes. Indiana's front office looked at that gauntlet and clearly decided, we need Clark back now, even if she isn't 100%. Because without her shooting, her playmaking, and her ability to draw fouls, this roster doesn't stand a chance against the Lynx or Storm. But here's where it gets bigger than basketball. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player anymore. She's a walking storyline. Every game she misses is national news. Every game she plays becomes a ratings event. Every hard foul sparks league-wide debates and media meltdowns. Somehow, she's not just an athlete. She's become a cultural flashpoint, a ratings magnet, and yes, even a political talking point. So when Indiana makes a roster move like this, the ripple effects are massive. Fans dissect it like it's a Supreme Court ruling. Insiders scramble to confirm the details. And the rest of the league watches closely, because Clark's return changes everything. Defenses collapse. Spacing opens. Role players suddenly look like stars because she's drawing double teams. And every coach in the WNBA has to rip up their game plan when she's back on the floor. This move screams desperation, mixed with calculation. Indiana isn't just trying to survive, they're trying to send a message. To the league, to the fans, and maybe even to Clark herself. The Fever are all in. They have to be. Because without Caitlin Clark, Indiana is like Netflix without shows. You can keep it running, but nobody's paying attention. Of course, there's always the chance that this isn't about her return, that it's just another minor roster move. But come on. How many times are we going to play that game? Every decision Indiana makes revolves around Caitlin Clark. She's not just the centerpiece of the Fever, she's the centerpiece of the league. And that's why Fever fans are already running wild with speculation. They're buying tickets, planning playoff runs, and treating every whisper as breaking news. Maybe it's premature, but can you really blame them? After years of mediocrity, Caitlin Clark feels like the savior they've been waiting for. And that's the real story here. Not Kyra Lambert. Not the front office maneuvering. The story is Caitlin Clark. Her return will shake the entire league. Every team, every player, every coach, they'll all have to adjust. The WNBA has been desperate for mainstream attention for years, and now it finally has it. The problem? It all revolves around one player. And when one player has that much power, it makes the whole league look shaky. So yes, Indiana made a roster move. But let's be honest, the only move that matters is Caitlin Clark's return. And when that moment comes, it won't just be the Fever who feel the impact. The entire WNBA will.